the law. All right.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here today, and thank you to Governor Dayton and to Representative Winkler and to Senator Eaton, Senator Hayden, and most of all of you here at the Capitol. This wouldn't have happened today without your voices and all the hard work that you put into making sure that Minnesotans are going to get the wage, probably not even what they deserve to be paid, but they're going to be paid a meaningful amount for doing hard work across this state, because that's what this really is about. This is a strong minimum wage bill for Minnesotans. We're raising the wage to $9.50 for more than 300,000 Minnesotans, and we're responsibly indexing that wage so that the wage keeps up with the cost of living as we go forward, and the people don't see their wages immediately begin to fall once they get this raise. So it's a great day for Minnesota, and there's been a lot of discussion about what the economic impact of this wage is going to be, what this law is going to be. I think it's going to be absolutely positive. The more money that people have in their pockets, the more they spend in their communities, the better off we all are going to be. But I also think that there's another more important question that we have to ask about this bill, and that's about what we value as Minnesotans. The bill, in our efforts together to raise the wage for 300,000 working Minnesotans, says that in Minnesota we value hard work. It says that in Minnesota we don't believe that anybody should work 40 hours a week and live in poverty. It says that in Minnesota we believe that pulling workers out of poverty and into a growing middle class is what's going to make our state stronger into the future. That is what success and prosperity in Minnesota means, that there's a strong and growing middle class, and this bill moves us in that direction. And we should be really pleased with that. And one last thing, though, that it's important to remind ourselves. This is a great day and an important step forward, but it's also important to remember that our work is not done. There are still lots and lots of Minnesotans who are struggling to remain in or get into the middle class. One of the things that we have focused on for the last year and a half is making sure that we're providing the tools for that opportunity to grow. Freezing college tuitions, investing in education, making sure that our tax system is fair for all Minnesotans. That's really great work, but there's more to be done. We need to pass the Women's Economic Security Act yet this year, because women should get equal pay for the work that they do. We need to continue to build our stronger economy by investing in things like broadband and in new jobs and better education, not just in the Twin Cities, but across the state of Minnesota. Economic development investments that we made last year and that we can make again this year are going to make a big difference for Minnesotans to continue to grow our economy. But I really, at the end of the day, this should be a day of celebration. And I really want to thank all of you, because the folks up here that get to sign the bill, that get to press the green votes to say, yes, we want to raise the minimum wage, that's a great thing for us to be able to do. But the reality is, without the hard work over a year and a half or more to make this happen, by people out in the streets knocking on doors, making phone calls, this wouldn't have happened. This is a testament to what it means to truly mobilize and do our politics right in Minnesota. You did it right this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for being a part of this celebration, and thank you, Governor Dayton, for your historic action today. We're finally getting Minnesota caught up from one of the absolute lowest minimum wages in America to one of the strongest, most progressive minimum wage policies in this country. This is truly a big moment for Minnesota, and we're grateful to all the hard work and tireless resolve of many advocates and community leaders that have pushed a higher minimum wage for more than a year. But what I also want to talk about this moment that's much bigger than today, far important than the celebration that comes this summer. Because in August, when the minimum wage workers across Minnesota will see their first raise in almost a decade, that's when the bill signed into law today will start making a real, meaningful difference in the lives of thousands of Minnesota workers and their families. As we gather here this afternoon, right now, there are minimum wage workers in our communities doing the work we all depend on each and every day. They're in our restaurants where we eat and our stores where we shop. They're keeping our kids safe at daycare, and they're helping our children learn at school. They're supporting loved ones in hospitals, and they're providing care for our seniors with people with disabilities. But when they're done doing an honest day's work, many times working more than one job, far too many will face the reality of not being able to make the rent, or buy groceries, or fill up their gas tank. And far too many working parents will earn so little for their labor that they'll be forced to accept food stamps and other food shelves to feed their children. That's not economic justice, and that's not the Minnesota we want to live in. So we celebrate the progress here today because we know that 950 will mean that 325 Minnesotans will get a raise that they haven't seen since 2005. But even as we celebrate this victory, we must recommit ourselves to fighting for the working poor, because our fight is about more than simply raising the wage. Our fight is about raising up people. What good is it to raise the floor on wages if the ceiling of opportunity is down? Every Minnesota has a right to a living wage, every Minnesota has a right to housing, and every Minnesota has a right to fair opportunity. That's what we're fighting for. That's the finish line. So let's build on today's victory, and let's keep Minnesota moving forward. Are you with me? Yeah. Are you with me? Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Good afternoon. This is a bright new day for Minnesota workers, especially Minnesota workers who've struggled for a long time with low wages, fewer opportunities, and an economy that has slowly been sinking underneath their feet. If we do things right, today is the day that economy starts to rise. It's the day that Minnesota workers start to fight back, start to win back the right to a decent life in exchange for a hard day's work. That is the promise that Minnesota has made for a long time, and it has been a promise that Minnesota has failed to deliver for too long. Today, Minnesota workers, 357,000, start to see their wages rise. But the true power of this bill, the true power of this law, Governor, is that it stands for something much bigger. It stands for the proposition that workers can take the leadership role. They can take the role in their unions. They can take the role in their communities. They can take a leadership role in their churches. They can take a leadership role in nonprofits. The communities of faith, labor, and nonprofit who made this bill possible is the brightest part about this day, because it says the wages for workers don't rise unless the workers raise it up themselves. So this is not the final chapter in a bill to raise the minimum wage. This is the first chapter in a series of bills to raise economic justice to the forefront of Minnesota politics again. And we still have a long way to go. We still have a long way to go to achieve paid sick leave. We have a long way to go to achieve paid family leave. We have a long way to go so that every kid, no matter their family circumstance, no matter the community they grow up in, no matter what world they come into, they have an equal chance of doing well in school and rising. This bill, this day, is about a long road back for Minnesota and Minnesota workers so that we fulfill the fundamental basic value that we all share, which is that a decent life should be the reward for a decent day's work. And the energy that we see today, the energy that we've seen come together around this bill is the promise that will make that happen. So thank you very much, all of you. Thank you, Speaker Thiessen, Senator Hayden, Senator Eaton. I especially want to thank you for all of your hard work in making this bill possible. Governor Dayton, for your leadership and commitment to this, to Cher Knutson, Brian Rucci, and Peggy Flanagan, and all of those who work together on the Minimum Wage Coalition. This is your day. This bright future is made possible by you. So thank you.
Well, I want to start by, thanking the governor for his unwavering support of raising the wage. Really appreciate that. I also want to thank the leadership. I also want to thank the leadership in both houses for working together to reach the agreement that the governor signed today. The coalition of Minnesota citizens who demonstrated a successful lesson on how to participate in our democracy and how that can help affect government policy. Thank you very much. And Representative Ryan Winkler. He led the way on the minimum wage for over a year, displaying true statesmanship throughout our conference committee negotiations. The hardworking women of Minnesota have especially felt the pain of our state's current minimum wage. The increase to $9.50 will bring some relief. Low-wage employees are disproportionately women. 63% of those working at or below the minimum wage are women. As April 8th was Equal Pay Day, the day that symbolizes how far into 2013 women must work to earn what men earned in 2012. It's a good time to raise the minimum wage. Even with this increase in the minimum wage, a minimum wage earner will face extreme difficulty in making ends meet. As a registered nurse, I was especially impacted by the Minnesota Department of Health's white paper on income and health. It concludes that the lower the income, the poorer the health. The Women's Economic Security Act, including raising the minimum wage, will help us reach the Department of Health's stated goal of creating a Minnesota where opportunity to be healthy is available everywhere and to everyone. Together, we will continue to find solutions that grow our economy and bring our families more economic security. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Peggy Flanagan, and I'm the Executive Director of Children's Defense Fund, Minnesota, and a proud co-chair of the Raise the Wage Coalition. On behalf of the 70-plus faith, labor, and nonprofit organizations that make up our coalition, 325,000 Minnesota workers who are about to see their wages rise, and 137,000 children whose childhoods are about to become healthier and happier because their families will have a little bit more money in their pockets. Thank you to Governor Dayton, and thank you legislators for recognizing that now is the time for Minnesota's minimum wage to catch up and to keep up. For over a year, legislators have heard stories from workers across the state who earn minimum wage and struggle to make ends meet. They heard about workers like the college graduate who, in despite of her degree, could not find a job that paid above minimum wage, but she still needs to pay off her student loans and have money left over for food and rent. They heard about fathers like a single dad who relied on the church food shelf to supplement his low-paying job so his wife and child would not go hungry. They heard about mothers like a single mom of 4 who was homeless, going to school, and had worked a minimum wage job for 15 years. Two-thirds of low-wage workers are women, and many are single mothers. I myself was raised by a single mother who worked a low-wage job. Several weeks ago, I had a conversation with her about what was going down here at the Capitol. We talked about how difficult it was for her to balance being a good parent while worrying about how she was going to put food on the table and make sure that our rent was paid on time. She said that no one should have to struggle like our family did. And she told me that she was glad that there were so many good folks and people fighting to raise the minimum wage in Minnesota so that folks don't need to struggle the way that we did. Today is a victory for workers. It's a victory for moms and dads who at $9.50 an hour will have an additional $6,970 per year to meet their family's needs. That means maybe you buy bread and milk. It means a victory for children too, who because now they will be more likely to go to sleep at night with food in their tummies and a roof over their head. Raising the minimum wage won't solve all the problems that these workers and their families face, but it is a tremendous, tremendous start. Because of the hard work of advocates, legislators, and the governor, hundreds of thousands of workers and their families and children have a brighter future here in Minnesota. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is J.C. Behrens, and I am so proud to be here today. Thank you, Governor Dayton, for signing the bill into law. A wage increase is a huge difference in the quality of life for thousands of minimum wage workers in our state, especially single moms raising their kids, and I know because I am one of them. For years, I've tried to cobble together enough work to survive. As minimum wage worker and a mom of 3 kids, Jada, Mario, and Ashaya, I have been forced to work one job for each of my children just to make ends meet. However, the 3 jobs that I have, one cleaning homes, another an office admin, and a third a personal care assistant, they do not add up. I work incredibly hard, but constantly fall behind. By raising the wage to $9.50 and making sure it keeps up with the cost of food, rent, and gas, my kids and I will be better off. It will make a big difference for us, almost $300 a month. Those of us working low-wage jobs are willing to work hard. We want to get ahead so that we are not just in survival mode. We understand the importance of education as well, and that's why I'm also a part-time community college student. My kids see me working all the time, while their friends' parents work fewer hours to provide, and they are able to provide more. Having to tell my kids no all of the time is frustrating. That's why I made a decision to get involved and make sure workers and their families don't have to live in poverty. Over the past 6 months, I've worked as a leader with Take Action Minnesota and others from Raise the Wage Coalition. I've shared my story with the state senator Ann Ress, and I've led a march of single moms asking retailers to raise their wages. My actions have made a difference, as well as did all of yours. Raising the wage is an acknowledgement of how hard those of us making minimum wage really work. So thank you for all the hard work to make this day possible.
I want to congratulate Representative Winkler, Senator Hayden, all of the legislative leaders who are here, and all the legislators who worked so hard for over a year to bring this legislation to reality here in Minnesota today. I want to congratulate the Raise the Wage Coalition and Take Action, all the groups that were involved, and I hesitate to single anybody out by name because then I'll get into real trouble when I leave others. But I got to pay tribute to Chair Knudsen, the president of the Minnesota AFL-CIO. Who modestly declined an invitation to speak today so that others could have the chance. And Chair, I'm really going to miss the 10 texts a week I get from you asking the status of the bill, but we'll find other ways to communicate. You know, just to put it in this legislation, remarkable as it is, in perspective, Right now, the minimum wage in Minnesota is $6.15. That is 51% of the federal poverty level for a family of four. So somebody who's working $6.15 an hour trying to feed a family of four is making half of what the federal government says is necessary just to be at the poverty level. Next August 1st, that level will rise to $8 an hour. That'll be 2/3 of the federal poverty level. We're not propelling anybody into the fourth tier of the income tax level here. We're giving people enough to survive. And even at $9.50 an hour, it'll be 80% of the federal poverty level today, and that number will rise, which means the percent will fall before then. So we're doing what Democrats do best. We're reaching out to people who work hard, who need the help, who shouldn't have to have a minimum wage in order to get paid a decent wage, in order to get paid a living wage. People who work as hard as people do should get paid enough money to be able to achieve the American dream, and that's what they want to do. We say we want people to work for a living. And these are people, good Minnesotans, all over the state who want to work and just want to get paid something that's fair. Now, I've already seen Republicans and some of their chamber allies saying, well, jobs are going to leave the state. Well, jobs are going to have been going to leave the state for as long as I've been around this part, 38 years. Every time Democrats do something that helps people, fourth tier, jobs are going to leave the state. Expand medical assistance, jobs are going to leave the state. Make the minimum wage closer to a living wage, jobs are going to leave the state. Well, you know what? I'm sort of surprised that after 38 years of that, there are any jobs left in the state. But the opposite is true. There are 155,000 more jobs in Minnesota today than when I took office 3.5 years ago. 159,000. Minnesotans working in this state, employers, thank goodness, employing people in this state more than ever before, they speak much louder than that empty political rhetoric. The surveys show that over 2/3 of Minnesotans support the minimum wage. Not because raising the minimum wage, not because they're going to benefit directly themselves, but because they know it's the right thing to do. And they know indexing is the right thing to do, which is why that's also supported by more than 2/3 of our citizens. Because they know it's right for Minnesota, and because we've been successful with this kind of approach every time Democrats have a chance to do it. Raise incomes, raise medical assistance, raise care for the people, and then watch them go. Watch the state go. Watch us go. Thank you. Anybody who didn't get a pen, who wants a pen, we're over here. Matt Swenson has pens, so especially kids. Any kid who wants a pen, any adult who wants a pen too. But okay.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Nancy Maker, a Minnesota Without Poverty.
And what does this mean for the people of Minnesota today with this minimum wage raise?
Oh, it means so much. It means that we can really be on the road toward ending poverty in Minnesota by 2020. It's a dream.
And what has your organization done to make this happen?
Our organization began back in 2001, and out of some of our documents came the Legislative Commission to End Poverty in Minnesota by 2020. That commission did its work. This minimum wage raise was one of the key recommendations in the Legislative Commission's recommendation. And so we've been working very hard to implement those recommendations.
I love your shirt. Can you tell me about it?
Oh, absolutely. We were trying to figure out last year what we could do to move the $9.50 in the Senate in 2013. So we came up with the phrase, catch up to the cost of living, and we've just gone with it since then. Even had a flash mob this fall.
What's the next step?
The next step is economic inequality. We are working on that as the next big issue that we want to address, and we are bringing in Aaron Currier from Pew Research and having a big event on June 2nd to address economic inequality.
Do you think $9.50 is enough, or should we have gone higher?
Oh, well, of course it's not enough. We should have gone higher. $10.10 isn't even enough, but it is a huge step forward, and we're very, very grateful for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can you just say, how do you feel right now?
I feel so good. This is an incredible day. We, 70 organizations, faith, labor, and nonprofit, have worked so hard to make this happen, and it's an incredible day for workers and their families in Minnesota.
Can you explain something to me with the indexing? How is that going to work?
So essentially, folks will see their wages go up. It'll be indexed to inflation, so capped at 2.5%. So starting in 2018, every year after that, a decision will be made to increase the minimum wage. There is an off-ramp if we, run into some tough economic times, but within 3 years, then the minimum wage also needs to catch up to where it would have been previously.
Great. And for the groups that said, that $9.50 is not enough, we need to raise it to $15. What can you say to those folks?
So here, is $9.50 a livable wage? No, it is not. But let me tell you, it's sure a heck of a lot better than $6.15. And I think we've only just begun. This coalition can do much more work together, but this is the first step in creating more economic stability for families in Minnesota.
Does pressure need to go to the businesses themselves, especially the larger corporations?
I think so. When we take a look at what the sort of disparities between what folks at the top are making, what folks at the bottom are making, then we have to have a real conversation about what does it mean to work a hard day and make a decent wage. So that conversation needs to happen. I think that it's starting here, and we've got more work to do. But I'm excited.
What are you going to do now?
I'm going to Disney World. But I literally am going to Disney World with my family. But I will tell you this, that, I've been with Children's Defense Fund for 7 months. This is the first campaign that I worked on and in that role, and I am hungry to do more for children and their families in this great state. At the end of the day, Minnesotans do the right thing, and that's what happened today at the Capitol.
Do you have a sense of what the next battle is?
One of the things that we're looking at is the Child Care Assistance Program. We've got over 8,000 families that are on a waiting list to get child care assistance, and these are families who want to go back to work, who want to work to support their families, and so that's a huge obstacle and something that we really want to look at and tackle.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
What do you feel right now?
Thrilled. This is a huge step forward. It's a step. It's not the end. Workers don't have economic justice with this bill, but they're a lot less far away from it.
Are we okay? Okay. So what do we need to do now?
Well, let's not see $9.50 as the cap. Let's see it as, despite the inflation adjustment, I think we should a year later increase another 50 cents, a year later another 50 cents. I think we've got to, I'd like to see $10.75 an hour now would be inflation adjusted from the 1960s. So we need to go further with the minimum wage, but it's not just that. The earned income tax credit, we gave a little bump to it this year. That's the tax credit that low-income workers get. If we doubled our Minnesota worker tax credit like that, that would be several $1,000s more for these low-income families. And we need our Minnesota health plan where everybody gets health care, not just some health insurance plan. And, we do a few things like that. We won't have workers living in poverty anymore. And this is a huge step forward. It's not the end, though.
Do you think there's going to be the political capital in the legislature to make this happen?
We're building strength. This, I think, a couple years ago, even last year, I think a lot of my Senate colleagues didn't think we'd get to $9.50 an hour with indexing. We did. We're moving forward. People are learning. And, sometimes doing the right thing is unpopular. This is one where the public overwhelmingly supports this. Overwhelmingly. Doing the right thing was popular here.
How much are the 2014 elections going to play into this?
This bill will help a lot with the 2014 elections, and we need it to help a lot because if we're going to continue moving forward, we got to have folks who are willing to move the state in a progressive direction. So I think this is a victory, not just in policy-wise, not just in politics, it's both of those, but the real difference is going to be these families. That single mom who was talking about her kids, it's going to be a huge difference in their quality of life, and that's something every Minnesotan should celebrate.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheila.
Well, obviously, it's been a long time in coming to get to passing this bill and signing it into law, so I'm very excited that we're doing that, and I hope that this is the beginning of a whole set of changes to our economy to help raise wages for workers and create more opportunity for people who are struggling today.
We just talked to John Marty. He says he wants to raise it even more next year. Do you think? Do you agree with him, or do you think that's a possibility?
I think there's always a chance that we can raise it further. We're seeing momentum around the country right now. States going to $10.10 an hour. Other states who have their wages indexed to inflation, so they're going up. And as momentum builds around the country, it may be that Minnesota moves up again as well. But for now, this is a great place to start.
What other initiatives need to happen in order to address the inequality in our state?
Well, a huge number of things. Some of the things that we should do is provide for paid sick leave for workers. We should have paid family leave, which a number of states are implementing. The state of Minnesota spends a lot of money in contracts and purchasing, and we don't tie that to wage standards for workers. We give incentives for jobs, and we don't tie that to wage incentives for workers. We've got care workers all around the state that are making low wages, and if we raise those wages, that puts upward pressure on the local economy everywhere. There's just a huge number of things that we could do to actually begin to turn this state into a place where workers have a better chance.
The Democrats are kind of a triple threat right now with the legislature and the Senate and the governor. I mean, do you foresee this after the next election that this will continue and grow stronger?
Well, I mean, Democrats have to come back into power in 2014. If the House is reelected and the governor is reelected, then there's an opportunity to do that much more. And so, as we begin to round out some of the issues this session, we need to focus on our elections and make sure that the message of that the fact that Democrats are out there actually trying to make a difference in people's lives and that we're on their side. As long as people connect to that message, I think we have a chance to come back and do much more.
Do you consider this the biggest achievement this session?
I think this is probably the most significant bill for hundreds of thousands of workers in this state. Obviously, the things we do make a big difference in a lot of different areas, but in terms of real impact on real people, I think this is the most important bill.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Could you say your name for us?
¿Tu nombre? Lucila Domínguez.
And do you need a spelling, or we're okay? Great. And could you say, how are you feeling today after this bill has been passed?
¿Y cómo te sientes hoy después de que pasó esta ley?
Pues muy contenta. Es un buen paso, pero queremos, como siempre, un poco más. Hubiese sido el aumento.
So I feel very happy today that the bill passed. I also feel like it's a very good step for workers, but also, we need to make a living wage and even a higher wage. We deserve a higher wage.
And what is Setul going to be doing to make that happen?
¿Y qué va a hacer Setul para lograr eso? Que seguimos.
Lo que nosotros estamos haciendo es como un poco más las compañías, las corporaciones que pongan un poco más de atención e interés y escuchen al trabajador más que nada y entiendan las necesidades de nosotros.
So, where we're focusing also is with the companies that pay those wages and the corporations that have an influence over the economy, for those companies also to give raises even higher than what the minimum wage is, and for those companies to listen to their workers and understand the needs that everyone has.
Are immigrant workers particularly affected by rules surrounding minimum wage?
Trabajadores inmigrantes son mayormente afectados por las leyes de salario mínimo.
Es normalmente todo lo que es industria de limpieza de toda clase trabajadora baja es la que está sufriendo este salario.
Yeah, so I think, who it's affecting a lot are the workers in low-wage jobs. So, workers who are in the cleaning industry, who are in all the low-wage jobs. I would just add, those are industries where there are a lot of immigrant workers, but also a lot of other sorts of workers. and so it does largely affect immigrant workers, but a whole range of workers.
Do you feel like the politicians right now that are in the state are listening to workers?
¿Te sientes como los políticos que ahorita tienen pues puestos en el estado están escuchando a los trabajadores?
Pues sí, un poco, pero en parte estamos más que enfocando un poco más en corporaciones.
I would say yes, they are listening to us. They're listening a little bit, but we're also focusing on the big corporations in our state and what's their role.
Are there particular organizations that you're targeting?
Hay algunos corporaciones o otras instituciones que estamos enfocando.
Sí, tenemos enfocado especialmente en Target. Sabemos que es la corporación de aquí de Minnesota, que es la que está llevando pues más control más grande en Minnesota.
Yeah, so we're focusing a lot on Target Corporation, also knowing that they have a lot to do with the economy of this state. They have a lot of power in this state and a lot of control over the economy.
Thank you so much. Thanks.